Welcome to my podcast, Topical Talk, where we address a variety of issues relating to education. Today's topic is, are textbooks anachronistic? My first public school teaching position was as an ESL teacher at a big high school in Texas. And it was a really big deal when the textbook companies would come down to demonstrate their latest and greatest textbooks. It was called the adoption process, and they always kicked it off with a big barbecue for all the teachers. It was really delicious, but it didn't concern me very much because as an ESL teacher, I didn't have a textbook. I just had a guide that had been made up by the lead ESL teacher. And it had topics such as using comparisons, or making irregular plurals, things like that. And honestly, I shudder to think about what I did teach them while I was there. They were in block classes, so I had them for almost 2 hours a day. I had no books, no workbooks, no computers, and no experience. I really wonder what we did all day. And I think about those days now, and I wonder if textbook companies are still hosting barbecues in textbooks. Nobody has really come out and told me that textbooks are passé, but I've noticed that a lot of teachers no longer use them. And so I wanted to explore that topic a little bit, and today I'm going to talk with a couple of teachers and a couple of students. Okay, so now I'm here with Mr. Jazusko, and he's a second-year math teacher, right? And I know that the math department doesn't use a textbook anymore, and I'm just wondering how you came to that decision.
It was pretty easy, I think. Both of us kind of had the same feelings on kind of what a textbook does, and what we decided was that the textbook, for the most part, overall was pretty much used only for homework. Mm-hmm. There were students that looked for the examples and the notes in the textbook, but otherwise what we have for them has all the notes and it has examples, so the only thing they would be using it for is homework. So if we can just give them homework problems to do, then they really don't need a textbook. Mm-hmm. And something else too, I don't know, I can't speak for the other math teachers, but for me, I think that textbooks are, I guess, usually updated maybe 10, 15 years, and there can be many errors through that. So if it's not being updated every 10 years, there's things that could be changed, there's all this stuff, and it's just kind of stuck there in this book. Mm-hmm. And I like to be very flexible, so if something needs to be changed, I like to change it. And with the textbook, it really just doesn't offer that. And and there's always the pressure of, well, these sections are in the book, so I need to do these sections from the book. But I think a lot of teachers anyway just kind of work around that, cut things out, add things in.
Sure.
So it kind of just became another thing to keep track of. Uh-huh. And I could probably do most things without it. It's not bad to look at, for structure and pacing, but to make students keep it and treat it like some holy book is not quite right.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So what do you use instead?
We have notes so that we can print them off, and they kind of fill in as they go. Some things are filled in, but a lot of the main points are already there.
Are they notes that you make, or it's a curriculum that
we have a pre-made curriculum, yeah.
And did you have to purchase that, or it's something free?
Yeah, so we did have to purchase it.
Uh-huh. And so can the students do the work online, or it's not like an online textbook?
Yeah, it's not really online.
Uh-huh.
But there's plenty of places they can look online if they do need help. Mm-hmm. But
so the work, say the homework that they do, is still like a worksheet?
Yeah. It's still all paper.
Uh-huh. Okay. And do you see math, the future of math going more this way than with textbooks? Do you think there's a future for math textbooks?
I think it's getting harder and harder for textbooks to keep up, because now we really do. It's really easy to just load up the textbook online, and so many kids have computers that they can look at this textbook online. There's so many videos online. I think a textbook in the future might just be 5 pounds of paper, basically, and I think even a lot of students, they don't open it until they have to do homework. So, of course, there's people that like the textbook, so they'll keep the textbook, but I think a lot of people wouldn't miss it too much.
Yeah. Have you had any students say they want to use a textbook?
I had a student at the beginning of the year that said, I like looking at the textbooks and learning from that. And I said, okay, we can get you a textbook, and then you can take it home. And he never grabbed it.
Oh.
And I haven't heard anything since.
Okay.
So.
That's interesting. All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Evan Broughton, and I'm going to ask them about their experiences with textbooks. So thinking back on all your school years, and especially more recently, what have been your experience with textbooks? Like, have you noticed that teachers use them less?
During our elementary years, we used textbooks like every day, and then once we got into junior high, it got a little less. And now, being seniors, some of our textbooks are online, and also like our English class, we don't really use a textbook. In other classes, we don't use textbooks as well.
Yeah, definitely over the years, I've noticed we use textbooks less and less. Like last year, I think I only had 3 textbooks. This year, I only have 1, and that's because I don't even have a lot of classes in Whitebeard. Like most of my classes, I learn like something it's over ITV or whatever.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. And do you take ITV and online?
Yes.
So through distance ed? And I know distance ed no longer has any paper.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about that change? Does it just seem natural, or do you?
Yeah, it's been actually a really nice change. It's a lot easier to carry just your laptop around, or compared to having 4 textbooks that are 300 pages thick. And you can work on your homework wherever you're at too.
Yeah, I like to say it's more efficient even. Just like Evan said, you have less to worry about, less things to lose, and everything's just right there on your computer.
Do you think there's any future need for textbooks? Like, if you think about in the future, if you have kids going to school, do you think they'll even use books?
I don't feel like they'll use like tangible books, but they'll use like the online ebooks and stuff. So like that will be used a lot.
Yeah, I don't really see a use for textbooks anymore, if I'm being honest. Like obviously there will be like online versions of textbooks, but the actual physical books, I think, are obsolete.
All right. Well, thank you. Now I'm here with Jennifer Manstrom, English teacher at Wyndmere High School. And Jennifer, I've been talking with people about the use of textbooks, some students and another teacher, and most of them don't see much of a future for textbooks. They think that just using online resources is more efficient. But I know you are using a new, almost brand new textbook, and I'd like to know what you like about it and your experience with it.
Sure. I teach the Senior English, British, and World Literature from a Pearson My Perspectives textbook, and I've really liked it. This one has an electronic component so the students can put on an app on their phones. It will take them to resource pages, it will give them audio clips, it will give them additional information about the story and the authors that they're looking at. The other reasons that I kind of like having a textbook is I can plan my units. It's already kind of prepared for you, so you know how long it will take to do each section. I can choose to swap something out or use supplement information if I would wish to. And I've done that sometimes too. So, but I do like having a textbook there, and this is also an interactive textbook for the students. It's a consumable, so they write in their workbook, and it really gets them to interact with their text.
Okay, so that's interesting that they actually write in it. Do you find that actual writing has any difference than using a keyboard to type notes or do exercises?
I feel it does. I think, studies have shown that just taking information in through your mind and out through your hand as you're writing it down on paper helps kind of solidify it in your brain. This one also, one of the nice things is it has a pre-assessment at the beginning of the year, a mid-year assessment, and at the end of the year assessment, so you can actually see what have the students learned from this particular textbook. And I feel like it would be a little bit more unable to contain, for sure. If you were using various sources, it might not be quite as easy to gather your data and information.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So do you see textbooks as part of the future, at least in the English area?
It makes sense to me in the English area, probably because there is that scope and sequence as they go throughout. I've often said that if you can teach 7th and 8th graders literary terms when they're young, basically all you need to do then for the last 4 years of their English education is continue to give them more and more exposure to different types of literature, thematically or by genre, by author, whatever. You're going to just continue to increase what they know because you're giving them more pieces of literature to read.
All right. Well, thank you for your time today.
You're welcome.
Topical talks, tell me the buzz in education.